Hello, everybody. My name is Faik Karaolgu. I'm leading the branded business at Wacom, and today I'm going to have a great conversation with Celina. Celina Bertoncini, she is the ninth grade STEAM teacher at Brooklyn Emerging Leaders Academy. And she was tasked with creating the STEAM program at Beta during this difficult year. And with this, I would like to say welcome to Celina, welcome to thINK21, the Wacom Education Summit, but of course also welcome to our conversation which we are going to have in the next 30 minutes. Celina.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here. It's nice to meet you. Again, my name is Celina Bertoncini, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm creating a STEAM curriculum for my school.
Yeah, great. Celia, maybe you are driving the program Bella. Just give us a little bit background about Bella. What is Bella? What is the mission of Bella? And the general idea.
Sure. So BELA stands for Brooklyn Emerging Leaders Academy. So we're in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, New York. And our mission is really about empowering young women to be like the best versions of themselves. So we are really dedicated to not just like academic excellence, but also making sure that they are just well-rounded people and have all the skills that they need to get into college and also graduate from college.
And that means you are working really with K-12 students, right? And preparing
Yes.
them to the college.
It's a high school, so we're 9th through 12th. Yeah.
Great. But I think the last year was for all of us very challenging, all over the world, I think, also in New York. How is the STEAM program going during this time for you and for the students?
Yeah, so obviously it's been really difficult, and especially the seniors being like, oh, it's our last year of high school, and them wanting to be in the building. It's been really challenging. For the STEAM program, I always kind of gear towards technology because the school I'm teaching at, there's no like specific technology class. So the STEAM program, like that, the tech is built into there. So being virtual has allowed me to kind of go explore more into that area and incorporate a lot of technology into the curriculum itself. And so it's been pretty good with STEAM classwork because like I know how to use technology. I know how to teach technology because I've been doing it for many years now. And so I know how to help students like use their computer, how do you right click on a trackpad, like little things like that some teachers may not understand that students might not know how to do yet. And I kind of build those skills. So it's been really interesting in that department to kind of like walk them through using their computer to then like using technology in their computer.
This is great. This is great. And do you have the feeling that STEAM program in general? I think this is on one side it has an academic perspective, of course, but how is it with the emotional part? Is there also an emotional development based on the program you set up?
Oh, of course, yeah. I always think about STEAM as being about problem solving, but also about like application. So there's just like a lot of creativity. There's a lot of making things, creating things. Students get a lot of freedom in what they get to create and make. And so when they do that, they can see their creativity. They see what they're making. They get really excited and like proud of what they're doing. And it makes them more invested in school, but also it makes them feel really confident in themselves and that they can like do these things. And also they see what their classmates are doing and they get excited about what other classmates are doing. Like, oh, this is really cool. Like, do you want to see what I made? Like, do you want to, in like that sharing and collaborative environment, as opposed to like a competitive environment, like, oh, you got 100 on your chest, I got 98. It's like, no, whoa, what did you make in Tinkercad? Like, look what I made. And it's a very a collaborative environment and space that is just a really nice way for students to build their social skills.
Okay, then on the other side, also sharing really the experience with the technology and with the program in general, right?
Sorry, what's that?
They are sharing also, in this case, their experiences with the program in general.
Oh yeah, share a lot.
If I get this right, Bella is a hybrid approach also to learn. And maybe just another perspective, what did Celina learn out of this hybrid program? That means, what does it mean for you? What is it on your side?
On a very personal level, I would say that hybrid learning definitely taught me a lot about like my limitations as a teacher and just like really pushed me to like the boundaries of what I can do. So I actually have been teaching virtually online since 2016. So I was using a platform online to teach like one-on-one private lessons online. So I felt very comfortable like virtual teaching. Like that was great. And then, you know, I've been in a classroom for several years teaching in front of a classroom. I'm like, okay, I can do this too. But then hybrid, when we had like half the students are on the computer virtually and then half are like in the classroom in person. And I'm like, okay, I'm good at one, I'm good at the other. How do I navigate doing both at the same time? And I think that most teachers will tell you it's kind of like juggling, but everything's on fire. And then you're also trying to balance on top of a ball. Like it's just like one of those things that's very challenging, but we actually switched to virtual, and then now we have some students coming into the building as well. So we kind of like went back and forth between fully virtual and then hybrid because, you know, things have changed with COVID and whatnot. So we have to keep adapting. So I definitely learned my limits, but also learned how I can adapt really quickly because I got it done. I made it happen.
Yeah. But what do you think for the future? This hybrid model is going to continue, right? Is this what you have in your mind?
I definitely think that the virtual teaching and the technology use, so like the way that students are using their technology more and getting more comfortable with like tech, also virtual calling and things like that is definitely something I see in the future. We also have something called the Women's Symposium coming up where we have guest speakers from all around the country coming to speak. And so it also gives like this global connection. So I think in the future in the classroom, like having that kind of global connection to using technology would be really interesting, since sometimes it feels like, you know, you're at your own school, very insular and not getting to connect with people in different areas and whatnot. I think also the aspect of like teachers learning technology as well so that they can better implement hybrid learning will definitely make it something that I see in the future for sure, because I found that like some teachers are still adjusting the technology, but once they get it, they're like, wait, this is actually really cool what I can do with like for example, we have the Wacom tablets, and teachers were like, oh, I'd never even heard of this. And I showed it to them and they're like, oh my gosh, can I have one? And then they started using it. They're like, wait, this is really cool. But they didn't know that that was a thing until we were like pushed into hybrid learning and pushed into a situation where they had to like embrace the technology, which is great.
Yeah. And then how come that you have a passion, that this kind of a passion for technology? Is this from childhood, or how come?
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a nerd. What's funny is it's kind of perfect. I ended up in STEAM because when I was in school, I was always really creative. I loved drawing. I loved making art. I'd read poems. Like I was all about that. I liked playing music. And then in science class, I was like, I took this mad science after school thing, and I liked to do science experiments and like do all that fun things. And it was so sad because in high school, I had to choose between like AP Physics and AP Art. There was no like bridge between art and science. I had to choose, and so it was like, oh, I guess I'll choose science because, you know, jobs are only in technology and science and stuff. And it was sad to me because I'm like, I want them to be together. I want an integration of science, technology, and arts. And also my dad's kind of really into tech. He had like the first iPod when it came out. He had like the first pieces of technology, and then he got the bamboo Wacom tablet, like one of the first ones. And so he like gave it to me when I was a little bit younger, and I got to play with it. And then as I got older, I like, you know, got a Cintiq, got another Wacom. I have like a lot of Wacom tablets. And then I would draw with them because I got to use the technology to make more drawings digitally, which I got really into. And then I got into animation and whatnot.
Yeah, and I think this is also a very, very good point. Before Bella, you were really an animator. Then you started the program of Bella. And how are you using this animation experience in your current role? Is this helping you, or how is this also impacting what you're doing today?
Yeah, I'm very much still an animator at heart, and I make animations for myself mostly. Like, get hired to do it. I make it for myself. I also teach animation classes online to like private students and stuff like that because, you know, I'm so obsessed with teaching and animation. I have to do it all the time, you know, naturally. And I think that something that's really resonated with me about animation is kind of what I just mentioned with like the technology and the science and the math really tying into the art, storytelling, creativeness. I know there's this course on Khan Academy called Pixar in a Box, and it's specifically for like STEAM programs because they go through like how you need to know like the math and the science and the art to like make these films and to make these things happen. And to me, that's kind of how I bring animation in the classroom. Like I try to integrate the idea of storytelling and creativity, but also the fact that, you know, you use technology, and using technology involves like some math and some problem solving and some science. Like you got to know all these things together to make something work. And I think that's how students have seen in the classroom, like it coming together.
And is this also the idea of your Go Growth drawing club? Because this is, I think, what you're also driving with your students. Is this the main goal of this?
So my STEAM class is where I have like all the 9th grade. My Go Grow drawing class is just like a small group of students who chose to do the Go Grow. It's kind of like an after school club, and they chose to do the Go Grow because they wanted to learn, you know, more drawing and stuff like that. So in my STEAM class, we do lots of things involving drawing, but we also do some stuff in like biomedical science and some other topics in computer science, like coding. So in my Go Grow, we get to really hone in on just like pencil to paper or Wacom stylus to tablet and actually get drawing in, which is really, really fun. And I think it's really sad to me because whenever I bring up drawing to somebody, like if you ever ask somebody like, oh, you like drawing? They'll be like, oh, I can't even draw a stick figure, or I can only draw a stick figure. They'll say something like that. And it like breaks my heart because, you know, when you go to a classroom with elementary school kids, they're all going to be coloring, they're all drawing, they're all like making stuff. They never feel like, oh, I'm bad at drawing. They're just like, oh, I love drawing. This is great. And once you get to like teenagers and adults, it's like, oh, I'm so bad at it. I shouldn't even do it at all. And I feel like drawing is a way of thinking. And there's this really great TED Talk by Ralph Ammer on YouTube, where he actually talks about how drawing helps you think and like perceive the world around you, just like you use language. And he would never say, oh, because when I speak, I'm not saying a poem that I shouldn't draw because I'm not making like a Leonardo da Vinci, you know, art piece here. So I really love that video because it reminds me of my students where I'm like, guys, you don't have to make beautiful, gorgeous drawings. Like what you're doing is you're like expressing yourself, you're understanding the world around you through drawing, you're thinking. It's so much more than that. And I think the students are realizing that, because at first when you get drawing students at this age, they'll get really self-conscious. They don't want to show you what they draw. They like feel like, you know, it's very personal. I don't want to show this to people. It looks terrible. And it can be a very personal thing because like your inner thoughts and stuff. But I think they're really growing in that sense of like drawing more and getting more comfortable with it.
And how is then technology impacting here in this case that they experience using the technology? Because on one side they have something in their mind, also creativity, and they're bringing this really on paper, even if it's a digital canvas. But the question is, how is the technology impacting them?
I think the technology is giving them another kind of like challenge, but it's developing their like problem solving abilities and how they're, you know, growing and developing with the technology, especially considering some of our students have never used like a computer before. Like they might have used like their phone or like, you know, an iPad or something, but they may have never really used a computer and been like, this is where your files are, this is where, you know, you get to look stuff up, this is, you know, how you look for your applications. So there's some basic technology skills, and once they kind of get a hold of that, they're like, wow, I can do so much with a computer. And with the digital drawing tablets too, like, wow, I can draw these pictures and I can make new layers and I can save my pictures. And, you know, it's not like, you know, in person where you have to have like a physical notebook and you have to keep going through pages and you have to buy a new sketchbook and then all that stuff. So I think there's like this really cool element of students realizing the power that they have when they know how to use technology, and also the digital literacy skills that they're learning will be necessary for college and beyond, especially considering like it's 2021 and we have all seen firsthand how technology is an important skill to to master, because a lot of things in our day and age are run by technology. So they're really getting that, literacy in.
Great, great. And that it looks like the technology is driving the drawing is driving the technology, and then also the interest for technology and the adoption for technology, which is of course also in a way opening maybe additional doors for them. If you're going from the students to the educators, what are your advices to STEAM educators, or even in general to educators?
This can apply to all educators, but I was thinking specifically of STEAM educators when I thought of this idea of like why. When teachers are teaching, like a lot of the time students don't really get the like why of it. And I mean, it's easy to tell students like, you should need to know this or you should learn this. And that's not like as sticky as when they are actually solving a real world problem or applying their knowledge to a certain task or creating something. And then they see like, oh yeah, I do need to know how to do this. I do need to know how to write that. I need to know this math skill. So it's kind of like that hands-on learning approach. So really my biggest piece of advice is to always seek for kids to understand the why that they're doing stuff. Like, why is it important they're learning this? And especially with STEAM, because STEAM is science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics. That's all the subjects. That's all the disciplines. Everything falls under STEAM. So STEAM is about connecting and bridging all those things together to say, like, how can we apply this in the real world? Why should you need to know how to do this? Like, why does this matter? Which reminds me again of like the Pixar in a box kind of idea. And then once they feel like they know why they're doing something, they're like more motivated. They're like, I want to do this. I want to achieve this. I want to understand this because I can see how important it is and how it interests me as well. So that would be my biggest piece of advice for STEAM educators, but also for other educators.
This is great. And again, it is great to see your passion also for technology. And as we are a technology company in our field, that means Wacom is driving the technology also since 37 years now, coming really here more from the creative space and now moving to the education part. The question is also from your side, what is your expectation to the technology and maybe even also to a company like Wacom, which is driving technology? Do you have something in your mind?
I remember thinking this, I think it was when I was at my old school and all the students had Chromebooks. And I remember thinking like, oh, it would be so amazing if they could get Wacom tablets and I could teach them to draw and use stuff. And then remembering that like Wacom isn't compatible with Chromebooks. And then I think just recently you have the new product, right? You have the Wacom that works with the Chromebooks, right? Yeah. So like thinking that was like a very specific, like for educators kind of thinking like in schools, there's so many different computers that are being used. There's even like at some schools, they're using like really old computers. Like they're using some Dells from like way back when because they can't afford to get new technology. So like if they wanted a Wacom tablet, would it actually be compatible with a really old computer for teachers to use? And then teachers who've been working in like, for example, librarians sometimes at the schools were in New York, because I've been to over like 20 or 30 schools in the Westchester area. And I would always notice like usually it was a librarian who had like the 3D printer in their library and like they had all these tech stuff and like none of the staff knew how to use any of it. So they would like, I worked for this really awesome company called the Digital Arts Experience in White Plains. We were in White Plains, now we're in Scarsdale, New York. And they're just really wonderful because we would go to all the different schools and kind of like use the technology they had. We would bring our own technology sometimes because like we knew how to use the tech, but teachers who were already there at the school like had no idea how any of the stuff worked or how to teach it to kids. So I think that when Wacom's like thinking of teachers, thinking of like all different types of teachers. So there's like me, like huge tech nerd, have like 5 to 6 Wacom tablets that I love using, all of them. And then like another teacher who has no idea what Wacom is, doesn't know what a digital drawing tablet is, may have never heard of what digital drawing is. They're like, yo, you draw on pencil and paper. And there's like that whole spectrum of teachers and educators out there. So it's a very interesting, domain to get into.
Yes, yes, and I think this is also, as you mentioned, compatibility is one of the key topics. What we are also targeting, that the technology is really compatible, and on the other side, of course, the easy of use. This is the important thing. But this is we are, I would say, on the beginning of the whole journey, because it starts, and the pandemic, of course, gave the whole topic in a way a little bit more speed, but the transition started, and I think the journey is now coming, and then we have to see how we are going to grow also with this community, as we did also with the creative community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, there is that like creativity that might be lacking sometimes from the traditional academic classes. So there's
Mm.
many schools that I've seen in Brooklyn, and some that I've worked at, that didn't even offer an art class or offer any creative outlet for some students.
Yeah,
And it was very heartbreaking, because like I know that sometimes the school can't afford it, or they don't have the teachers, they like don't have what they need to make that happen. But I feel like drawing, like I mentioned before, is about it's a process of thinking. And it's not just for people who are artists or animators or in the creative fields. It's for everyone.
yeah,
Like just
yeah,
like everyone uses language to speak, everyone uses pictures to think and uses a visual language in their mind. And being able to put that on paper, I think will show educators like you don't have to be teaching an art class to use a tablet. You don't have to be teaching like a digital drawing class to have students draw to understand things better. Like drawing is something every single person has done since they were able to pick up a pencil. You know,
yeah,
the first thing a kid does is they pick up that crayon or pencil, they're drawing. Like
yeah.
nobody had to teach them that. They're drawing stuff. You know, cavemen on the caves, they're drawing things. It's crazy. It's just in us.
Yeah, and our goal is, of course, to underline and to support this, as you are saying, the drawing, and maybe bringing here also the bridge between the analog and the digital world. This is, in a way, also one of the, I would say, missions what we have on our side. Good, Celina. Thank you very much. Thank you for the great conversation, and really also your also that you're sharing your personal insights with us. It is great. It is also great to see how you grow with us together, and I'm sure we are also going to grow in the future together. Anything else you want to add before we are closing our conversation?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. It's really, really wonderful to be here, and I hope that something, you know, in this discussion has like inspired someone or helped out or anything like that. So thank you again so much.
Yeah. Thank you again to you, and we are going to stay for sure in touch. This is not the last time that we are going to talk to each other. There is more to come. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.